Before we get into today's show, I wanted to thank you so much for being a listener of our podcast, the CTO Studio. We wanted to invite you to come to San Diego, October 25 and 26. We're going to grab a whole bunch of CTOs from around the world to spend time together. 2 jam-packed days, leadership, technology, innovation. We have a special surprise for you. Coupon code for the CTO Studio listeners. The coupon code is the CTO Studio. Just go to our conference website, o111conf.com, and get your tickets. And we'll see you soon. Please come, say hi. Bye. Hey, welcome to the CTO Studio. This week, we do not talk about rockets and satellites and the flat Earth. We talk to CTO Ken Cohn of Radeus Labs. Enjoy.
Well, I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
Welcome to the CTO Studio. I'm your host, Etienne de Bruin. The CTO Studio is where we chat with CTOs building amazing products with incredible teams. Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Kenneth. I want to know one question. What is the frequency?
What is the frequency? You asked me that earlier, and I had no idea what you were talking about.
Do you still not know?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about? What's the frequency, Kenneth? Wow, man.
Yeah.
Hey, when this episode is, we have to play the legal 30-second clip of REM's What's the Frequency, Kenneth?
What's the frequency, Kenneth? The shopping's a drain.
Oh. So I lived in Alaska during those years. I didn't get a lot of that music.
Did you live in Alaska?
Yeah.
So you're the CTO of Radeus Labs, and I love it because when I think of you, I think of rockets and satellites and deserts and like drones and just holy moly's, man.
I was wondering where the deserts came in, but drones. Sure.
So I want to get into all of that. If you were falling from an aeroplane and had to describe before you hit the earth what you guys did, what would you say?
So I kind of had almost that exact conversation with my business partner the other day, but different. If I was falling out of an airplane, literally, seriously.
You guys said that?
I said those words. You can ask her. Yeah.
The way we're connected is astonishing.
Well, watch the disconnect, because what the real point was if I'm falling from the airplane, would I have the presence of mind to enjoy the beginning of the rest of my life, because I'm going to die? Can I enjoy the flight down and the beauty and all of it? Or am I just going to have panic and have a massive heart attack? And yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't be describing my tech journey on the way down. But I'll try.
So, Radeus Labs. Is this a rocky start?
No, this is fun.
I love it.
It's grand. Yeah.
When we did try do a podcast together back when I was holding a mic in front of your face.
Oh yeah, I'm practiced now.
And now we're with the pros.
Right.
Eric the Pro.
Yeah.
I want people, before they tune out of this show, to know exactly what you do. And in a way that is as sexy as I want it to be. Satellites, rockets, deserts, drones, unmanned vehicles.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Wow. That's a tall order. So a lot of people don't like what they do when they go to work every day. I love my job. And I didn't know when I was, one of the questions like in prepping for this podcast was, describe your tech journey in 5 minutes or less. That plane must be really damn high.
How long is that journey? 3 minutes?
Yeah, probably. So I don't have 5 minutes. I've got
from
3.
30,000 feet.
Yeah.
You got me kind of rattled now with that question. I think I would not have the presence of mind to enjoy my last 3 minutes.
I hope that I would.
Because in a way, you're flying, right?
Right.
You're doing the thing.
You could slow down by increasing your...
And you can go places, right? With the directional...
Should we take jumping lessons?
Jumpsuits.
Yeah. Meanwhile, reciting our tech journey all the way down.
Wow.
Alaska, is why I'm in tech.
Really?
Yeah. So my dad was a missionary pastor. Sorry about that. I moved away from the mic. And we moved to this island, Kodiak Island, and, there's trees and bears and deer and stuff, and basketball and wrestling, and both which I was terrible at. So I went hiking and got a TI 99 4A, Commodore 64 when that went obsolete. I'm like 11, and then a few months after it goes obsolete, and so I'm like, Then
When
I got
were
a
you
Commodore
born? 70?
69, yeah.
Oh, 69. I'm 72.
Yeah.
I went the Atari route. Atari
Yeah.
into Unix. I guess PC-based Unix systems.
Yeah, the
Atari-
400 and the 800 and the,
yeah.
right. I had a friend who had those, and I think we had this
It sucked
rivalry.
because we did have the rivalry
Mm-hmm.
because the Commodore kids, they always seem to
We're
have
cool.
they always seem to have all these games, and pirating games was easy.
Yeah.
You could just basically copy the cassettes, right?
Not that I would know.
Yes, and with the Atari, and I was from South Africa, so I was like the only kid in the city that had that machine.
Yeah, my village was 300 people. I was the only kid in the village who had a machine.
Did you ever do VIC-20?
Yeah, I got one at a yard sale years later, and
Yeah, well,
it was really too small.
no, you can't stop. You can't. You have to start with it. You can't have it any other time.
Right.
Do you remember Turbo Load,
Turbo load.
where you were able to load games
Yeah.
faster
Yeah.
on Commodore?
Yeah. I remember reading about it. I never had it. I actually took the compute magazines and would type in my first
I
word
did the same
processor
thing.
and spreadsheet were me typing in the hex codes with it.
Dude,
Check.
I
some.
know. I just told some friends that's how I learned about how to code. So you could type in the assembly codes with the hex editor, or you could there was magazines I got, the Atari magazines I got, where you literally transcribe the code from the magazine.
They did do that. Yeah, but I guess it was so unsuccessful because
because you made typos and
right.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite ones though, because I could understand it. I didn't care about the code for like a spreadsheet.
yeah. So in Alaska, other kids are playing with bears and basketball.
They're wrestling like bears and playing basketball. And so every morning when I make my coffee at the Keurig, I open it up and I take this K-cup. And I kid you not, when no one's around, I can throw it up over my head with my left hand and go swoosh in the trash can when no one's freaking looking.
Wow.
It's taken months. It's like 6 months of practice. And I've done it like consistently for the last 2 weeks, except when someone's watching. So no one believes me yet. So 30 seconds, falling from the plane. I'm almost at the ground. So Kodiak, right? Kodiak Island, Commodore 64, no VIC-20. And I want to design video games because, frankly, they stink. I mean, Atari 2600. I have one still. Just last week, bought the little thing to be able to plug it to my TV again. And, right. So I went to college, and the college I chose, LaTerna University, had the senior project. My degree was computer science engineering, and the senior project, you have to design the computer, like a single board computer, write the monitor program for it, OS, whatever, and build it and run it. And that's how you pass and graduate. So I did that, turned a 4-year degree into 5, had a lot of fun. And then when I got to, so Vertex Communications hired me because I showed them my single board computer. Wire wrap, it was hand wrapped. And so I wanted to do software. I was going to write all this code. And what I wanted to do, why I went into the computer science, was I had seen a Pixar video and a Cray video, the sunset with the waves hitting the beach video. Like, that's what I want to build. I want to build a supercomputer that plays video games, make it accessible for everybody. And then I started designing single board computers for receivers and antenna controllers and stuff in the communications industry and never got to that. And Eventually I did. I did an indie game for Xbox with a friend of mine. And,
Oh, you did an indie game?
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like 4,000 downloads, only 300 people bought it for $1. And
Wow. Did you use Unity?
No, that was XNA. It was Visual Studio.
Like RPG?
RPG.
Sorry, role player game.
No. Okay, so Steve Levy wrote this book, Hackers, and in it they talk about, I don't know if it's Stanford or wherever, and like in 1964, they built this game called Space War, right? I played that game in college. I loved it. So you could have got one. It was called Andy's Notepad Saucers. And so we had this world and little spaceships flying around.
Wait.
What?
The name of the game was what now?
Oh, well, it wasn't Space War. That was taken.
So you decided to name it?
Andy's Notepad Saucers, because we were going to do this whole series of games. Oh, there were these sketchy games.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you didn't take off.
I didn't say I was a marketing major. Yeah.
Wow. Can I see the game?
I don't know.
We should. Can we link to it? Can people download it still?
No, I think the indie games are gone. Although I've still got the code and I've thought about refreshing it. There's a YouTube video. You could see it. It's kind of fun.
Let's link to the YouTube video in the show notes.
I'll send that to you.
YouTube.com.
Yeah.
Great. So you ended up
Vertex Communications.
Yes, but let's fast forward. So then you ended up in San Diego.
Right. Because that first job at Vertex lasted 22 years.
Oh, geez. Okay.
From intern to engineer to senior engineer to engineering manager to continuous improvement manager. Director of engineering was in there somewhere. Operations manager. Big defense contractor bought us. And I'm like looking for another job.
But somewhere along the way, you became a bit of a rock star, right? My words, not yours.
I did play drums in a band with my brother.
You had you became some sort of domain expert, some sort of on the is it on the tracking drive cabinets, or did you become a domain expert on something?
Sure. So there were a few things. So when I was an engineer, I became the product engineer for a product called the 7200. Which is an antenna control unit that's been discontinued by my previous company. And I learned a lot about antenna control, learned a lot about how to point at a spacecraft and track it, motion control, excuse me, encoders, how to interface with position feedback devices, high-speed digital design, again, more single-board computers, VHDL, digital design. And I didn't do a whole lot more in software there, so I did that in my spare time because I still love software. And, but when I became a manager, I had to become, I had to be good at herding cats, you know what that's like. And, except these were really smart cats and they disagreed with me and, yeah. So, critical chain project management, I got into lean, different business practices, that continuous improvement type stuff. And so then when I was looking for another job, my brother-in-law who lives out here is a general contractor, and he says, "Oh, I'll get you a job out in San Diego." I laughed at him because he's a general contractor, and why would he? And I forgot everything I knew about people and connections and networking, and of course, so he got me a job at Radeus Labs, where I interviewed.
Because he knew Juliet, or?
No, so Juliet's brother was a very good friend of his.
Okay.
And he handed the resume to the brother to hand to the dad, who was the owner of the company at the time, to give to the L3s, General Atomics, defense contractor types here.
And so you're currently the co-owner of this business.
Yeah.
You are the CTO of this business.
Yes.
And building out, kind of a small company into hopefully a behemoth.
A behemoth?
Is that a good thing? Is behemoth a good word?
It's not a bad word. It's not what I want to build.
What do you want to build?
We want to build a learning organization. So our company makes products. We grow people. We build an organization that is always learning, that is listening to customers, that is meeting their needs. Purpose-built products for people who
It
need them.
reminds me of Gary Ridge from WD-40, who, when you ask him what they do, he doesn't talk about a lubricant at all. I think he mentioned that they build memories. And that to me,
Nice.
such a, because he's so focused on the team and the people and, these thousands of people that work for them that yes, okay, we're doing this product. It's a commodity product. Everyone knows it. Everyone wants it. But so now he's in the business of creating this incredible organization of humans who make memories.
Yeah. Well, so I'm a CTO. And while I actually have written some code this week, probably for the last few months, easily 25 to 40% of my time has been focused on people, whether it's reviews or mentoring or coaching, developing, asking questions, not giving them answers so that they learn, coaching people into doing A3s, just, yeah.
What was the other 75% spent on?
Other 75%.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. So 25% was coaching and people.
I said 25 to 40.
Okay, so
Yeah.
almost half. And the other half is what? Is that businessy things or technical things? Architecture.
I would split that in half again.
Mhm.
And businessy things, whether it's, I haven't done an org chart update, but that's on my to-do list. Even though it's not quite my role, we're a small company, so different people can do different things. I've actually been using Todoist. So more of, as a time management tool, and it would have been probably 40% techie things and 10% businessy things, but the businessy things that I've got to do, we're piling up. So I've been forcing myself to go through that list. And no, the tech things we have product requirement documents, project requirement documents, reviewing those, talking with customers, getting inputs.
So how does one track a satellite?
How does one track a satellite? So this is fun. There's a lot of ways to track a satellite. On the way in, I was listening to a podcast about
the CTO Studio or something else.
Now you put me on the spot. So no, Data Skeptic is this one. I've got a number of podcasts about data science and AI right now.
Okay.
All the buzzword stuff.
Yeah.
And
Data Skeptic. That sounds awesome.
yeah. And they're talking about a Kalman filter. One of the ways you track satellites is with a Kalman filter, and that filter is a filter, but it's probably more accurately termed a tracker. And so one of our competitors uses a Kalman filter to track satellites, and so I was looking into that to see if that was one way we can improve our customers' experience by giving them many ways to choose from. How do you track a satellite? So it's really easy. You can predict where the motion of the moon, the sun, with respect to the Earth is really well known. It hasn't changed in a long time, right? So you've got these orbital mechanics. You've got these formula that tells you, based on this time, based on where you are, you can do a coordinate transformation and say, okay, so this is where I'm pointed. So, the moon's up there. Didn't say satellite yet. The moon's up here. And it's rotating around the Earth like this, and I'm here, and so I can transform where I am to the center of the Earth, and at this time I'm pointing at the moon.
Let the record reflect that Ken's doing a lot of hand waving and pointing.
Because podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's good.
Right. So the here is not relevant to the listener.
So the question is, is it basically math?
Yeah, it's a lot of math. So how do you? So
What I mean by math is, you're not basing it on what you can see. There's no visual.
Well,
reference.
you asked a question that I wasn't answering. Is that how do you track a satellite? But you push the track button on our unit, and then you're presented with a list of targets, and you can see what's my tracking mode, and yet there are tracking modes and pointing modes. So I was describing a pointing mode. Right?
Okay.
So I can pull down, there's a website called Celeste Track, and you can get 2-line element sets that describe the orbital motion of a satellite and do the math and point at them.
And is that, I just have to understand this, are those 2-line
element sets?
Are those verified by physics, or is it just math path calculation, like where it should be based on all these rotating elements?
Well, I'm sure someone does the physics. I don't create the sets. What we do is, I was going to talk about how they create the sets, but I'm really not the expert on that. What we do is with 2-line element sets, and you'll love this. They're 2 Fortran lines, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's very character based, and but it's really easy to ingest from a computer. And so we take those parameters in there and do the math, and we know from this date and time, with this epoch, this time, that it was here, and
therefore
a body in motion tends to stay in motion. Now, the problem with that is it doesn't take into account, well, it's a little fuzzy because it's the declassified version. It's not terribly precise. It's precise enough for older satellites and older, lower frequencies and stuff. But it doesn't take into account anything that happens after that set is published. And so it's not very reliable after a few days. It's supposed to be good for up to 170 hours, which is great unless the satellite operator does a maneuver and fires a rocket. And now that's less valid because now the trajectory diverges. So how do you track a satellite? Now we listen to it. The energy that's collected by the satellite dish. We look at what's the strength of it, move off a little bit in what we call step track. We step off and measure the signal magnitude and step back on and measure and take the difference and fit that to our little model. And over time, we have this series of points. And our unit takes all these points and then uses several different methods to do a curve fit to them. We've got everything from a memory track with a sidereal day correction. So it's not like a 24-hour day. It's a little different. And so we make that adjustment. And then where was it yesterday? A geostationary satellite or a geosynchronous satellite will be in roughly the same position at the same sidereal time that it was yesterday. And also we'll do a curve fit to this thing and build a model and predict where it's going to be. And then if we lose it, then we can keep following the predicted path or in between step tracks we can.
So using the epoch, you can know where it should be through calculation, and using the energy collection through your dish, you can get precisely where it is.
Right. You can know yes. You can know where it is because we do what's called peaking up. So, we move the dish and back and forth in one axis and back and forth in the other axis and determine where's the strongest point. At that point, we say, okay, we're pointing at where the satellite is now.
And then I'm going to sound like such a fool, but the dish is really there to magnify and amplify the signal to a certain point, right?
Yeah, it's generally parabolic. It'll collect sound, or it'll collect the signal, kind of like the sound things you see.
The signal emitted from the satellite.
Right. You ever see those parabolic dishes in the football games where these guys have microphones and this big clear satellite dish?
Yes.
It's amazing how much sound that collects.
It's amazing.
So they talk about the gain of this antenna, and you've got the size of the dish, and And the larger it is, the more gain you've got.
Are you okay that we talked about this?
Yeah. I didn't say anything, so I didn't talk about how the algorithms.
Well, I know it's a lot more complex, but
yeah.
I do think that it's just fascinating for me. How many satellites get destroyed by debris? Is it significant enough that you are aware of it, or has it not?
Yeah, sure. No, it happened to one we were tracking. It's not like hundreds or tens in a year.
But is there like a variable X, which is, hey, everything's going to be awesome. We're going to track this. It's going to cost you millions of dollars to launch it and keep it up there, but could get hit by a rock.
I love it. I don't know how many rocks are up there, but I guess so. There's a couple that have gotten hit and they don't know what hit them. They talk about having an anomaly. I actually don't remember. I'm trying to remember if it was AMC 7 or in a 3-month period, a year or two ago, we lost 4 satellites. So that's big. That's a big deal. That's a lot of satellites. And I don't know if we lost any in the next 12 months, but
presumably not, because all 4 of them crashed into each other.
No, they're not even close. So space is really big, right? So if you look at the cloud of all of this orbital debris that's up there.
Hey man, if this download rate on this episode's really bad, it's totally my fault, okay? I totally take responsibility for it. It's like 100% my fault. Okay, so I apologize.
No,
because
so
my next question is, what's up with all the flat Earth people?
Oh my gosh.
And so partly I'm annoyed and angry because of it must be the American education system that produces these people who run these types of home experiments to explain cosmic phenomena. But surely they can just go to someone like you and say, "Hey, is the Earth really flat?" And you're like, "Hey, it's not. Let's move on."
So it's funny you mention this because my wife, I don't know, a few months ago says, "Hey, so what would you say to someone who says the Earth is flat?" And I said, "Nothing. I'm not going to waste my breath talking to them. Why would I talk about it? This is stupid, right?" And so, not 3 days later, we're on a camping trip, and one of our friends at the camping trip starts talking about this flat Earth thing.
And was that person convinced the Earth was flat? Or was it just a hypothetical?
I don't know if he was convinced. You know, when someone says, "Yeah, I'm asking this question for a friend,"
but actually, it's because I watched too many YouTube videos.
I think maybe this guy says, "Well," he's like, "I don't really believe the Earth's flat," but they make some good arguments. I'm like, "No, they don't." Yeah. It's like, how am I sitting here being able to afford to eat and have clothes if the Earth is flat? Because like, how do you have? I can't track satellites around a flat Earth the way we do now. It's just absurd. Anyway.
I just think that you can. It's easy to be convinced of something when your world is tiny, and if science isn't in that world, you probably run an experiment where you're like, well, if the Earth was really round, we wouldn't be able to stand upright because the rotation would be so high that everything would be lying flat, and it would, it's like, if you're saying things like that, then I have compassion, because how did you get to a place where that is your frame of reference, where you can make such a simple conclusion about things, completely disregarding?
Yeah, on the people I've talked to, so other people also talk about moon landings were faked. This guy, we had the same conversation because I'm sitting by a campfire. Who else am I going to talk to about what else? I don't know. And he's a good guy. But we're talking about the moon landings, and he's convinced it was fake. And I say, well, if it was fake, after all the thousands of people who are trying to debunk it, and why would we hide it anymore anyway? Because like, moon landings happened before the first one, before I was born. So what's the point? Everything's declassified back then. To what end would we still be concealing this? And if you go down to the DMV, the government's not the poster child for efficiency, and so how on earth could we keep a secret like that? That it was all fake, and I think the answer to your question is I don't think it has anything to do with science unless you're talking about the science of the brain and how people think in psychology. I think it has everything to do with trust. It's I don't believe my government. I don't trust my government. Therefore, there's some ulterior motive. So therefore, they're doing crowd control or whatever. So they must have faked this to keep us.
That's an interesting take. Trust.
Yeah, I think it's distrust. If flat Earth conspiracy theories, it's there's reasons in their mind not to trust, so they don't believe when evidence is right in front of their face.
How many satellites do you track that have been launched by SpaceX?
Oh, goodness.
Like, are there any?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I have to apologize for that question and the fact that we're going to have single-digit downloads for this show.
Yeah, that's fine.
And also...
Right, because we're not software as a service. We're not talking about AI.
If our show notes person is transcribing this, please don't mention anything about this flat Earth stuff.
Wait. Maybe it'll have 1 million downloads because flat Earth.
Flat Earth.
Right. I'll be burned in effigy. Perhaps. Just not alive. I'll be fine then.
So, I want to talk a little bit about the hybrid. Are you managing software and hardware in your... Sorry. Are you managing teams that are hybrid, like hardware and software?
So yes, we recently hired an engineering manager, as you know, and he's doing more of the day-to-day managing, and I'm helping and coaching, and so it's both. It's hybrid. I like to talk about making products. Not that other things aren't products, but I'm not just providing integrated hardware. We're not just a contract manufacturer, although we do some of that. We're not just providing software, and we do some of that too, but we provide solutions or products that are integrated, embedded software on top of hardware. And we design both of those. I learned through 7 CTOs about mob programming and pair programming, and we recently took our teams who are actually working more on hardware right now than they are on software, circuit board designs, and we've actually got a contractor writing software for these, and we're focusing more on hardware. And our guys are working in pairs. Not 100% of the time. We're learning how to do it. 15 years ago, I tried Scrum on hardware and failed miserably. What's the lady's name that was at the 7 CTO conference, the 0111 conference? She was talking about
agile in the hardware.
Yeah, it was agile.
It was Siggy.
Yes.
Sadok.
And so I asked her a bunch of questions regarding that and said, we tried this, it didn't work. We tried this, that, and the other. And she said, well, did you do this? Did you have this? Did you have those? And I'm like, no. She's like, okay then. So I believe it can be done. We just didn't have the time to try it. But we've been doing not pair programming. We've been talking about pair engineering, pair developing, pairing up. And so we've been doing that for a while.
So hardware engineers pairing, I'm assuming around some design app, designing out circuit boards and running tests and all that.
We've done that. Yeah. Even designing a circuit board, one person's laying out a schematic and the other person's watching and saying, well, I don't think it works like that. Why are you doing the circuit this way? And then they talk and the design's better for it.
So Radeus Labs, ruggedized computing.
Yes.
And this is what we talked about earlier, which is the DVRs for unmanned drones, right?
UAVs, yeah. UAVs. Unmanned aerial vehicles, yeah.
And so those get shipped out to the desert.
Sure.
And
they get shipped out somewhere.
Yeah. And they get used.
Yes. That's been a great podcast. No. So that's another fun thing. The DFR, we call them digital flight recorders. I suppose if I had known more, we'd have named it a digital flight data recorder, because that's actually the name for the black boxes on airplanes. Our DFRs aren't airborne. They're down in a ground control station. So when you're flying an unmanned vehicle, and if you're going somewhere that people might not want you to be, if you fall out of the sky for some reason, then you may not want your black box found by the nearest people there.
How does the data? So I'm assuming this is a lot of data that's got to be recorded, right? Is it visual data as well, or is it just coordinate data?
Oh, sure. It's
everything.
Yeah.
And then, so how does that data make it to the box via a satellite uplink and downlink?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of fun. We actually don't do the satellite work on that stream, but yeah. And it's interesting, because my past experience with satellite communications, it's like they talked about our customer talked about the way the links worked, and it was fun because it was immediately recognizable, and the challenges they had were I could understand the why behind it. And so when I was talking with our engineers who had been working on these DFRs, I was able to bring the SATCOM side of the delay.
Or as a flat earther would say, you just bounce the signal off the false starry-skied ceiling.
I just have no words. I can't.
Ken, this is just more of a fun conversation because we know each other so well.
Right.
Okay. There's really what else is there left for us to talk about in life?
Well, but tech.
So, you are, in my mind, a student of culture, team. I love how seriously you take the mentoring and coaching of your team members. Taking your teams through regular exercises, all hands on deck style exercises.
Right.
In the few minutes that we have left, maybe tell me about some of those tools that you use, sort of your go-to tools, and or tell me a little bit about sort of how you make sure that your culture is a reflection of the values that you're pushing. Right.
Well, our core values at Radeus are integrity, continuous learning, and community. And so, again...
ICC.
Huh. Yeah, I never thought of it that way. That's cool. Yeah, so in support of those, you know how Michael Saul talks about integrity and EQ, and we have integrity if we do what we say we're going to do. One of the other ways we look at integrity is, well, we use a set of tools called Lean. And I'm not talking like the Lean Startup Lean, although it's similar. I'm talking more recently traditional kind of Toyota Lean. And Lean is a philosophy and a set of tools to make problems visible so that we can solve them, so we can reduce waste, so we can increase the velocity of our company, increase the velocity of our goals, or our cash, whatever. And so this is one where I do have a 30-second pitch. It's actually less than 10. And it's lean tools or countermeasures. Ding, that's it. Richard Feynman was once asked if you could only, civilization, great physicist, civilization's destroyed, and there's only this clay tablet left, and you've got to pass on all you know about science to people after World War IV or whatever. He says, all things are made of atoms. And of course, people will say, what are atoms? And they'll go explore, and they'll invent the scientific method, and then here we are again, right? And so that's really it. Lean tools are countermeasures. And so all of my tools, what's my go-to tool? It's Genchi Gembutsu. Go to the floor, show respect. And go to the floor. Gemba is where it's really happening, where the value is added, where or the thing is being done. And so how do you know what's going on if you don't go to where it's being done? So one of the things we do at work is, people have stand-ups and stuff. We actually will take, and we're small enough where we can do this, the whole company goes from one area to another, observing, talking, and the area reports on this is where we are.
I love that. And is that weekly?
Daily.
Daily?
Yeah, every day.
That is incredible.
7:30 in the morning. Except Tuesdays where we have our production meeting instead. But
so everyone walks. So I've been to your facility. So everyone walks to every area, and
you've seen the boards up on the wall with all the here's the plans,
So
here's
amazing.
the metrics, here's the things, and people mention it in their reviews. We had a personnel review today, and he said he thought Gemba was very, very useful.
Gemba.
Gemba.
And is that a method? What is it? Is it an acronym?
No, it's a Japanese word. It's from Lean. That would be a go-to.
Oh.
Another go-to tool would be 5S, where an often misunderstood tool that it's just about housekeeping and workplace organization, but they call it the cornerstone of Lean. And I started studying Lean in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know that I truly understand 5S, but I've begun to learn how much it really is a cornerstone of Lean. I used to have other tools for process, tear apart a process, rebuild it, improve the process. You can do that with 5S. You can.
What are the 5 S's?
Well, I don't remember the Japanese ones. I was just going to start rattling them off, and I realized, I forgot.
Are all those S's in Japanese?
Yeah, initially. But for us, right, they're sort, set in place, shine, standardize, and sustain.
Wow, you did all 5.
Oh, well, we do it often enough where I don't have to worry about it. And it's, so the sort is, so if we're taking like workplace organization into consideration, just look in this room. If this was a workspace, like I'm building something, I look in there and I sort all the stuff first, right? And I say, hey, am I using this every day? Am I using it every week, every month, yearly? Then I sort out
a physical sort.
A physical sort.
Okay.
Man, you can do this in your digital workspace as well.
You're right.
Right?
So sort and then
once you've sorted the stuff, then you put it where it needs to be. Set it back in place.
Set. What's the second S?
Yeah, set in place.
Set in place.
And there's probably 10 different.
And that setting in place could be either, hey, move it to this area or put it where you don't need it.
Right. And on a manufacturing floor, we might say, if you use it daily, it's at your work desk, your workstation. If
otherwise, it's gone.
Weekly, then it's in your work area.
Uh-huh.
If you use it monthly, it's in the facility somewhere. If you use it yearly, just rent it. You don't need it.
Third one? The third S?
Oh, shine.
Shine.
So once you've put it back in, then you can shine, make it neat, put it in a shiny bin or a not shiny bin. Just so you clean it up, you make it presentable, and document it. And that's actually can be done there. It's also done in standardize, because there's no standardization without documentation. So you don't have a standard if it's not documented. Otherwise, it's a de facto standard, and then you play the game telephone and your standard changes, and it's not really a standard.
And is that the fourth S?
That's the fourth S, standardize.
So standardize could also be sort of process size or SOPs or,
You can do 5S on a process. You can, right? So you can back up to sort, and one method we do for process improvement is we look at the value added. Is this step adding value? So is it value added? Cool, we keep it. Is it not value added? Well, is it required? If it's required, who's requiring it? Do we really need it? Or why do we have it here? If it's not required, get rid of it. So now we've done our sort. Set in place, you put the process steps back where they go. Shine could be documenting it. It could be.
I just give it some attention. Like, is it still...
Right, and then standardizing is making sure that it's documented, doing it the same way every place. If I'm doing a standard code check-in, I might check Java in the same way as I check in Python, the same way I check in Forth or assembly or whatever. And I've got to, and then what's the last one? Succumb. Okay, so this is brilliant. I'm going to use this because succumb is usually what happens at 5. is you succumb to life. You succumb to the pressures of the business. You succumb and, oh, this isn't the standard anymore. What happened?
What is the fifth S?
The fifth S is sustain.
Oh.
And it's the hardest one to do.
Mm.
And it's the discipline of doing the process, doing it at the same time all the time. It's the audit. It's part of why we do gemba and we walk every day.
And you're saying it's the cornerstone of lean, not you, but you're saying it's been said it is the cornerstone of lean.
Yes. Yeah. So all these lean tools you'll find on the internet, all these different lean houses and all these tools that are the pillars and foundation and the dirt work under the foundation. But in the foundation, the first block is 5S. And I've heard it said that if you can't do 5S, forget about the other tools. You don't have the discipline to use them. Or Kaizen, which is improvement or continuous improvement, you can use 5S to do the improvement. It's a process of doing it. And if you do the improvement and you can't sustain it, you don't document it, it's not standardized, what's the point of improving anyway? Because it won't last. That is,
I think one of the misnomers is people have sort of become immune to the word lean because it's always associated with the entrepreneur who wants to get a startup going.
Yeah, in the tech world, yes. And in the manufacturing world, they don't use lean because they're like, oh yeah, I know lean. I was laid off. We had this lean initiative and I lost my job. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's just misused lean.
Yeah. No, I think for those 3 people still listening,
right,
they should definitely go.
Well, there ought to be at least 20 because my company. Yeah.
Well, they would stick through the flat Earth thing.
Oh yeah.
No, I love it. I think I always love the theory and the implementation that you bring to our conversations. Kenneth,
Etienne,
thank you very much.
Yeah,
if I wanted to read on, so what can I read?
Wow. Are you an implementer or a manager?
I'm a dreamer.
You're a dreamer. Well, then you're going to need people. So I would get the book Managing to Learn. Mm-hmm. You can get it from lean.org. And
do you think all CTOs should go to lean.org?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can derive the lean startup from it.
I like this a lot. This is kind of going to the truth more than the application of lean. It's like when people talk about agile is really just a couple principles that are implemented in various ways.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, Kenneth, next time when I ask you what the frequency is, will you give me an answer?
I might sing it for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Take care.
Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Hi, thank you for listening to the CTO Studio. If you don't mind, take a quick second and please rate and review the show. It helps us a lot. Go to thectostudio.com for more information on what we're doing at 7 CTOs. We also have a video or 2 for you that could be a helpful resource for you as you're managing your company. So thank you for listening.